What's up, grassroots world? I'm Chris Logan.
And I'm Ernie Barber.
And we are the Flagrant 2. Coach, what's good, man?
Not much, man. Just a lot of topics to discuss today. Just kind of going through my notes. We were chatting beforehand. Just a hodgepodge of stuff to catch up on after last week's guest. Having Trey on was fantastic. Shout out to Trey. But a lot to talk about. I'm going to watch some college basketball tonight. My son plays tonight at Northwest Missouri State. So they're traveling out that way. So number 24, Northwest Missouri State versus which would be number 26, UCO slid. They're the one team outside of top 25. So I think that's going to be a tough road challenge for them. But I'll watch that tonight. Probably some high school basketball as well. But lots to talk about, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about. We had a guest last week, so we weren't able to kind of get into some of the games we had saw right before that. And then, since then, there's been a ton of games.
Yeah.
I know we want to hit on maybe some transfers, Hey, the new thing, the late season transfer for the playoff run. I mean, hey, it is what it is. I'm very interested to see how those kids mesh with their new teams.
The Wild West.
Yeah, we'll go over some rankings.
Yeah.
Maybe where we got teams if it's a little different.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about the district is there's no 5 and 6A rankings right now, so we'll kind of make them up for them.
Yeah.
The 4A to A class, they obviously have that on OSSAA, and we can look at that and pull that up and agree or disagree.
Yeah.
I seen a couple that I don't really agree with.
Yep.
And then some, we pretty much had some of them pegged from all
One of
along.
them in 4A, I think we've talked about that a little bit. We'll get into it.
For sure.
Yeah,
This is going to be a pod that might be all over the place, but I think the viewers and everybody at home is going to enjoy it because we're going to hit a lot of topics and a lot of teams, a lot of players, and a lot of predictions for what we have going on.
The scattered week in review.
That's what it's going to be called. And by the way, we have a huge weekend of tournaments that are kicking off.
Yep.
Matter of fact, as we speak, they've already had a few games today.
Yep.
So by the time this airs, those might not even be over already. So, there's they got the John Noble and more, the Shawnee tournament, the Deer Creek has a tournament.
Yep.
To be honest with you, there's a tournament in every city. Every town has a tournament. Cashin's got one.
Yep.
Catoosa has one. You've got Union Jinx, Newcastle. I mean, I'm just trying to I could go on and on and on. And honestly, there's too many.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. But
way too many.
But the first round, this is where I see the problem. Last year, the first round matchups were literally like the top team in 6A versus the top team in 4A in the first round.
Yeah.
See, that gets people.
Yeah.
That gives people, okay, I'm going to go and watch the first round.
And then after that.
Yeah. I mean, there's not many that watch many more games than I do. And reality is, I took a look at these first rounds, and it's slim pickings on matchups that I really would want to see.
Yep. Me
for
too.
today. Now, as they advance on, there are obviously going to be some better matchups, and some of the tournaments obviously have a couple of better ones in the first round.
Yeah, one of the games I want to get out and see, I want to watch Midwest City play. I've watched them online, but I want to watch them in person. That's one that I'm going to shoot for here soon. But yeah, I want to get out and see them, watch a little bit of some 4A basketball as well, just to kind of sharpen my pencil. Obviously, this is about mid-season, so we're in the throes of it. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the McGinnis tournament. I know we went to that prior to having Trey on last week, but give your thoughts about what you saw.
Yeah,
there.
That's what I think. The best thing we can do is let's just take it back to where the last thing that we saw that before we got to that last pod. So. The McGinnis tournament, I think the story of the tournament, and I think it's going to be your same story, was Edmond Memorial.
Yep.
And the way that they've been playing lately, shout out to all the folks at Edmond Memorial that have been hitting me up like, are we there yet? Yeah, y'all are there now. Y'all have made your way
in top 5
into that top 5 mix in 6A for sure with just your consistent play, winning. They won the Bishop McGinnis Classic. They beat Choctaw. I know Draylon Nero was excellent. Always
he was.
is.
He really was.
And shout out to my guy Draylon. He just committed to UCO for football.
I saw that.
Hell of a basketball player.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Dre. A hell of a basketball player
Yes.
as well. I mean, anywhere he's gone, he just does. He's consistent, plays hard. But I think the story of that tournament and over the last month has been the sophomore Hudson France.
Oh, yeah.
He has simply controlled games
Yep.
that I've watched. I mean, I know you got some stuff you want to chime in on with him.
Yeah, no, he to me stood out. I think they've got some good players on there. Dre obviously I think is a stud. He's a little undersized but strong, is athletic, does a lot of things well for them. But Franz controls the game. Very good handle, shoots the basketball well. He's their leader. I see him as the leader of that team, and they're doing. He's playing great basketball, and they're as a team are gelling at the right time. I mean, Memorial could surprise some people come tournament time. So they're in my top 5. I don't know if you put them 4 or 5, but they're in there now. So looking to see how they continue down the stretch going into regionals or districts, regionals, and area.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun.
And I say, like, with them, they also have Kieran Padula.
Oh, yeah.
Who's super experienced.
I love the kid.
Gotta love him. Speaking of, if we talked about his brother on our last pod, Sean.
Yep.
And after that pod, he went really off. I mean, I think he averaged 32.5 points after that podcast.
Yeah, like 99 points in 3 games
we're
or something.
We're going to try to take credit for that, Sean. Appreciate you giving us a follow on the podcast.
Yeah,
team.
we had Orange as a background, too, for that last one. We had Trey on talking about him, so it just went really, really well. But yeah, back to Kieran. Kieran is a player. The kid is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
I always hated when we had to play against him in AAU ball because he's just tough and smart. He always does the right things. He's an unselfish player, and he can make big shots and make plays for you. So he's probably one of my favorite players in 6A. You know what you're going to get from him, and he's going to bring it every night. So I love the kid. He's a good player.
And then they have the versatility of Brady Handcuff.
Oh yeah,
and Elijah Brown.
Yeah, the athleticism.
Jack Sheriff, another guard that I really like in the sophomore class.
Yep.
He's coming on for them as well. Him and Hudson and we got. I mean, it seems like we talked about this. I think before the Padulas never end. They have a.
They've got a
the
young
younger
one coming
brother
up.
is a sophomore as well.
Good
so
point. Good point.
they're always going to have a Padula there. It seems like, and not a bad problem to have either because they can all hoop for sure. So they're a team that's definitely moved their way up.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to them. Making a run like they usually do. I mean, over the last decade and a half, they've been one of the better teams in the state.
Yep.
Have a couple championships, go a little bit ways back. Constantly putting guys out that are Division I level guys, but more importantly, guys that play the right way. So a shout out to Edmond Memorial making their move. Also, the team that they played in that, Choctaw, had a couple guys banged up, and I know they're getting healthier because they brought some of their football guys back. So as soon as they get, those guys more integrated into the offense, I think the better for them. What I take away from them, Camden Hyman does what he always does. I mean, every time I see him, he doesn't miss shots.
Yeah, he's a solid shooter.
And what I like about him is he's small in stature, but he has no fear. No fear at all.
Yep.
I love that kid's game.
He's tough.
And then both Valentine brothers, to me, had an excellent tournament.
Yeah.
And Jamon Valentine, to me, in the game I watched against Edmond Santa Fe, he was phenomenal. I mean, he really played great defense. He showed off that playmaking ability. We've always known him to be, a microwave scorer, a kid that can really
Gets hot.
Once he's hot, it's hard to stop because he's physical.
Yeah.
He's got speed. He can shoot. He gets going like that. It's tough for your team. And then the younger brother, Jordan Valentine, in that game was very good too. He showed off all 3 levels.
6'5", isn't he?
Yeah, and I've talked to his dad, and right now he's kind of a 3-and-D prospect because he's about 6'6".
Yeah,
might even be a little bit taller than that now.
Yep.
A great body, great frame. I mean, the ceiling is so high on that kid, and there's so much untapped potential.
He's just a bigger version of his older brother. I mean, that's really what it is.
That's what it is. So he, to me, as his skills develop, he's going to be something special.
Oh yeah.
He's going to by this time next year, he will be a household name if he's not already. So Jordan Valentine, I was really impressed with him. They're a team that I definitely think is going to be in the state realm of this when it comes to
You don't want to play Choctaw come tournament time.
No. They're only going to get better.
Yep.
I know Will Smith from football finally came over, the Oklahoma State commit in football.
Yep.
Super athletic, big body kid. When they get them all integrated in, they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
Yeah, you got some time, too, between now and the end of the season when tournament time comes to sharpen the pencil.
And Coach Simpson does a great job with his guys. I mean, they're always coached well. They're going to be some team to watch out for. From that tournament, a couple other Edmond Santa Fe having a great season still.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to say they've lost to Union in the Edmond Open. They lost to Choctaw in that tournament. I want to say that might be their only loss of the whole year.
I can tell you who their losses are. Their losses are to Union.
Okay, and that was in the Edmond Open. I was there for that.
To Choctaw.
They lost to Choctaw.
And then Deer Creek.
Okay.
And then Northwest Classen by a nail biter, 49-50.
Yes, and I watched that. I forgot. That was just this last week. I watched that game on stream, by the way.
Yeah.
It was, and we said we were going to be all over the place. So wherever one of these conversations takes us, we're going to take us. Northwest Classen had a rough stretch, and I think that game might get them back on track. Kemar Cyrus for them was very good in that game, and along with Brandon Butler did some things. But I thought Kemar, the senior, I thought he was the catalyst for that win at the end of that game. It was very tight. I think it was only like a 1-point win. I mean, it was a close game. I remember that.
Northwest Classen 6-7 right now, 4-3 in district.
Yeah.
So started out tough, losing to Lawton and PC West, and then got back on track and beat Eisenhower, beat U.S. Grant, lost to Memorial in a tight game, 46-53, and then beat Lawton Mac. And then lost to Norman.
Which is a good win. Lawton Mac, that's a good win. Lawton Mac's good.
Oh, yeah. And then lost to Norman, had a tough night there, and then won in overtime against UConn, lost to Norman North, lost to PC North, lost to PC West.
That was the PCI tournament there. Yeah, that's where they hit their rough stretch.
And then they've won 2 in a row, beating Santa Fe and then Lawton.
Okay, so see that's what I was saying is that
both really tight games, 50-49 against Santa Fe, and then 65-53 against Lawton.
But that's how things can change so quickly.
Yes,
is that the world was falling in on Northwest Classen just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and picking up that's 2 great wins for them. Against 2 teams that have been playing well, and a lot of people have picked to finish in the top 5 or higher. So I think all it takes is a little bit of momentum, like we talk about. That momentum is one of the most powerful things in sports.
Yeah, I think when you look at the districts in 6A, I think District 1, 3, and 4 are probably your if I had to say, the best top 3 districts. District 2 is wide open. There's a lot of teams that are close to the top with Westmore, Edmond, Santa Fe, Putnam City West, and Norman, and then Northwest Classen out there at 4-3 in district. So you've got 5-1 to 4-3 amongst 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams.
Yeah.
So it's really tight, and all those games that they're playing against each other are really close games. So it'll be interesting to see District 2 how it comes out.
Yeah. I think that, like I said, we were going to be all over the place. We started at the Bishop McGuinness. We've now moved over to Northwest Classen, who wasn't even in that, but they were in the PCI.
Correct.
But that will lead us to the PCI here
go.
in just a second. But one thing I'll say about Classen is I really like Leslie Rose. I feel like when Leslie Rose is engaged on the offensive side and he's really aggressive, Northwest Classen is very tough to beat.
They're scrappy, man.
They're scrappy, and I feel like it's him and his senior leadership and Kemar Cyrus that can catalyst those younger guys to come up, because Brandon Butler is definitely rising up in that junior class. He's a guy that the coaching staff there definitely been letting people know about him for a while, and just right. I mean he's a great player and does some special things for them. So I believe that those two seniors are really what's going to get that team where they need to be and going forward, and they could be a super dangerous team.
Leadership matters. Leadership matters down the stretch. It's going to be interesting to see. A lot of good matchups hopefully happen throughout districts and then going into regionals and area. But those three, I think, District 1, I think, is by far. You've got North, Deer Creek, Piedmont, Mustang, Moore, PC North. I mean, PC North and Norman North are 500 teams. They're 8-8, 7-7.
PC North's got some great wins on the season too.
Yeah, but in districts they're 2-5. So they've got big wins, but then they've struggled a little bit in districts. So, and then you've got Mustang and Moore that are 4-4 in district, and then Piedmont 5-3. Piedmont, I'll talk about that. I'll just transition into it. Piedmont and Moore the other night. Piedmont was in control of that game, shooting. I mean, you talk about a team lacks size. But shoots the basketball extremely well. Walker Kennedy is probably one of the – I would say there's not a better shooter in 6A. He can shoot the basketball.
He's definitely in the mix of top shooters in the state.
Yeah,
I don't care what class.
Yeah, he's a fantastic shooter, and we're lucky to have him on the squad come spring and summer. So shout out to him. He's special. But he fouled out late in that game, right? And they don't have a whole lot of size. And then when, a lot of guys can shoot, but again, there's not a lot of rebounding, or, they're not real tough on the rebounding side. Yeah. They've got a couple guys that get down there and scrap and work hard, don't get me wrong, but they're just not big. And you've got some good athletes on Moore that just were able to basically change. What happened is second half, basically Coach from Moore basically full court pressed them and muddied up the game a little bit. They were basically allowed to play half-court offense, and any time you have Coach Brandon at Piedmont playing half-court offense, you're in trouble. He's a really, really good coach and understands systems really, really well, and he's got his guys running what he wants seamlessly. So if you're playing half-court offense against Piedmont, you don't want to play them come tournament time because they can shoot the basketball well. You're going to have to defend them on the perimeter. But basically Moore, the second half, we're down. It was a tight game, but they tightened it up a little bit right before half, just a little bit, and then came out the second half and pressed basically most of the half. Yeah. Mucked it up, got a lot of turnovers. Piedmont just didn't handle the basketball. Turned the ball over a lot more, had a lot more possessions, were able to get easy buckets, putbacks, layups, in transition, so on and so forth. And then Hankins got hot toward the end of the game and started hitting threes.
No doubt.
He got confident, knocking down shots, hit a three at the very end of the game to take it into overtime, and then went into overtime with all the confidence, end up winning 76-66 by 10. I mentioned Walker Kennedy was he fouled out with a couple minutes to go in the game, and then they just didn't have any momentum, and then just didn't have a whole lot left in overtime. But it was a really good game. It showed a little bit of everything. The dynamics between the two teams are very different. And Piedmont, honestly, and I know they feel this way, should have won that game, but it's tough sometimes to play in Moore and get a win. Moore's always scrappy. They've got some really good players. They didn't come out and play well early, and it showed, and Piedmont did.
And they've had a kind of an up and down.
Yes,
I
thought they'd have been a little more consistent this year than what they are.
Yeah.
With Hankins and a couple of other guys, the junior senior leadership on that team, I thought they would have been a little more competitive early. But I will say they if they play with confidence and are able to shoot the basketball well, they've got all the other pieces. They could make a run too. Yeah. So they're on the outskirts of that list, but they're certainly somebody that come tournament time could surprise some people and win some games.
Yeah, I think with them it's just depth. I think they've had some over the last couple of seasons. So obviously Darian Grant and Tristan Hankins are going to be the guys that you hear about. but I think that they're just going to be looking for some others to step up because I know they've had a rough first half of the season. You know, honestly, like we said, we probably thought they were going to do a little bit better. But we always talk about momentum. It just takes a win like that where you come back and are able to snatch a win from a Piedmont team who's had a great, first half of the season.
Oh, yeah, great.
Arguably one of the top, 5 or 6 teams in the way that they've played. So that
totally agree with that.
win and, for more, that can get them going, because they got some guys. So
Grant's an athlete, too. I'll say this. The kid always generally plays the best player on. He usually will guard the best player on the other team, and he's tough to play athletically, and he's committed to it. He's a good team player, and so he's tough. And then, of course, Hankins, he gets confidence. You're in trouble. The kid can play.
Yeah.
So
I think then, and we're trying to keep myself going on track of chronological from
good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck on that in this episode. But from the Bishop, I also was attending the Putnam City Invitational around at the same time. So
talk about
I'll
that.
just jump into that, and the champion of that was Midwest City, which to me was no surprise if you watched them, but. The team those are the 2 teams I'm going to give you that stood out to me the most from that tournament were Midwest City and Norman North. Norman North under Kellen McCoy, they've got a nice lineup and they've got some depth. It's going to be led by a junior Hezekiah Green. He's about a 6'5" wing. But he's got a lot of playmaking ability in him.
Yep.
He's going to be put on my list as kids that have the most potential for stock rising this spring and summer. I'm not sure what team he's running with, but all I know is that if I had that kid, he'd be out there getting some offers and stuff because he's loaded with talent. He can shoot, he can drive, he's explosive, he's a good passer. I like everything about him. He's a kid that doesn't really get talked about too much.
I was going to say, not a whole lot.
No, but he will be. I promise you. That's what I'm saying. After this school ball season and then into the spring and summer, I think that people will know about him before he gets to his senior year. And obviously, they've also got a 6'8" kid and a junior as well, DeMonte Hines, who had an excellent tournament for them as well. Another one of those kids, shot blocker, kind of long and lanky, but good finisher around the rim, good defender, does some great things. I like him, and I love the point guard, Noah Jones. I mean, I said it at the time. Hey, colleges, get on this kid. It was nice to see that. Shortly after that, he picked up an offer from, I think, Redlands offered him. He's a 6'3" point guard who is a pass first guy, and he's a lockdown defender, and he's very. I mean, I've called him the best shot blocking guard in the state, and I stand by that with him. I really like him a lot.
That's saying something, too.
No, I really like him a lot, and I like that Norman North team. I might be higher on them than some, but I'm high on them.
Well, I'd say this. I mean, they started the season 2-2 and through the first 4 games, and then they were kind of, let's see, they went 2-2, so it was a loss, win, and they went win, loss, win. So they were 500.
Yeah.
And then they went on win, so they're 2 games above 500, then go loss, and they're back to 500, and then go win, loss. So they're 500 right now. And it's almost like you've got Jekyll and Hyde. They beat Westmore, they beat Del City, then they lose to Norman in the Joe Lawson.
Yes.
Right? That was all those were during the Joe Lawson. And then lose to Piedmont by 22. Piedmont beat them by 22.
Which is crazy. If you asked me that, I would have said no
No,
way.
yeah, exactly. But I didn't watch that game.
Because then look at their PCI. They get to the finals to play Midwest City, and they were great in
But
there.
I'm guessing Piedmont shot lights out in that game because Piedmont can shoot the basketball.
Yep.
So if you don't guard them on the perimeter and you're not tight, they're going to kill you.
Yep.
So Norman, then they beat Norman by 10, 57-47, and then Northwest Class, and they beat them by 9, 48-39, and then beat Putnam City by 24, 54-30.
Yeah.
And then lose to Midwest City 37-51. So Midwest City right now in the Putnam City Invitational.
Yes. That was for the championship of that.
So, I mean, I've got to get out to see Putnam City. I'm looking forward to that.
You mean Midwest City?
Midwest City.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, no.
sorry,
And I've
not
seen them,
Putnam City.
and I've seen them a bunch. So we'll talk about that. But also, before I move on from Norman North, Luke Bauman is another kid that they got, about 6'4" kid that can really play. That's what I'm saying. They're up and down, and they're 500. I think you said with their record. I promise you, Kellen will have them right when it's time to be. Over this next month, I expect Norman North to start to show their muscle, and I feel like they are a team that no one wants to play because they have size, they have athleticism, they have shooting, they're coached well. I think that they're going to be just fine when it comes down to it. So I'm interested to see how they can go. But to the team that beat them in that tournament, the Midwest City Bombers, and I put it on X. I said they're back. I mean, they are back, no baby, like no other. Coach Torrey, has done a great job in his first year with them. Like Coach Torrey Noel, they are a team that no one wants to play right now. They are loaded at every guard spot. They play tenaciously on defense, and the guards are so dynamic. I mean, it starts with 4-star, top 65 kid in the country, and Carl Sean Young, in his first year over there. It starts with him, but the senior Roy Henderson, I mean, I think he got MVP.
That supporting cast is really good.
He had an excellent tournament. I mean, he was oohing and ahhing. We had a group of about 20 guys on the baseline, coaches, you name it. We were watching those games closely, and Roy Henderson and Deshaun Denson, the sophomore, and Carl Sean Young, they were putting on a show. The relentless pressure that they put on is hard for anybody, and you're in foul trouble quickly against them.
That's where it's going to be interesting. Styles of play come tournament time is going to be, obviously we talk about Crossings and what they're doing. We'll obviously get into what they did the other night, but Midwest City can change. They can change the script quickly.
Yeah. But I also, with them, it's and I call them the three-headed monster at guard because they are. Because they each do something a little bit different, but it all works well when they're playing well together. That team, as long as that team shares the basketball, I think they're on a collision course to play Crossings Christian in a championship. I really do. That's where I'm at right now. And before I go on, it's not just the three of those guards. They got some
other players.
They have some other guys that bust their ass off, and they really play hard. And guys like Mason McKenzie, Caleb Stevens. I mean, you
got to have those other pieces.
Yeah, Brian Williams, the senior. They got guys that will fight hard. They play their role, and some of those guys sometimes are the leading scorer even over the three main guys. So with that type of versatility, I think right now they are playing as good as anyone in 5A. And it's and like I said, right now the collision course with Crossings is there.
The 5A is not pulling up. I don't know why it's not pulling up on the LSSA rankings for me. I don't know if it's
they won't have that on there now because they're now district.
Yeah. Well, I got not the state, but the districts.
You can do district standings?
Yeah, so
go to district standings.
That's what I've done. I just had 6A up, and then I try to pull 5A up. And
that website sometimes is a little jacked up.
Yeah, it's providing some issues for me here.
So
anyway.
So in that PCI, I mean, the other thing I saw was obviously Midwest City lined up against Tulsa Union. Tulsa Union, they've lost their only losses. They lost one game in district, and that's to Owasso. That was where Montanati just went on fire from three. And then they lost, I think their only other loss is to Midwest City. And that was a stylistic matchup where Big E, Eric Madrid, got whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And it almost is like Midwest City.
If you can't get him off the block, you're in trouble.
No.
And he's not easy to get off the block. So
No. But Midwest City's game plan, I think, was like, hey, let him score because we're going to get more possessions. It's going to take them longer to score.
Sure.
They have to dump it down there.
Yeah, they have to work a lot
it down
harder.
there. It's working it down there. He gets his buckets. But hey, if he gets 30 was their mentality, our guards are going to be good enough to score, and they all did. They all had, I mean, when they're all clicking and Denson is doing what he does because he's a natural born scorer.
Yep.
He's one of my favorite players to watch in the state. But really all three of their guards are. They're dynamic, fun team to watch. So yeah, you definitely got to get out and see Midwest City.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So coming away from that, Midwest City wins the PCI champion. They're off and running now. I think that takes us to just some regular season games that I've watched since then. I watched a game on stream the other night, and since we're going to transition from Crossings, I watched Guthrie versus Crossings on a stream
I did too.
last night.
I watched that.
Or what was it? Not last night, but the night before.
Yep.
And Guthrie is having a heck of a season.
Yep.
I mean,
they're scrappers, man. Senior led.
Yeah.
Shoot the ball well. They stayed in the game shooting early first half. It was a tight game first half, and then man. Second half came and Crossings, Phoenix started playing. Everybody, the bigs, Cam started playing, and then of course Cal late in that game just kind of took over and said, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ice the game." So
I think
really good. I'm impressed with Guthrie. They're a solid team.
I mean Guthrie. I think they only had one other loss outside of Crossings on the season. I don't remember who they lost to. I know they've beaten Carl Albert.
Yep.
I know they've beaten quite a bit. I mean, they were like 11-1, I want to say, prior to that game.
Yeah, they hadn't lost many games. But I will talk about it. But
the player that's been standing out for me for them is senior Alex Clark.
Yep.
He literally might be the most physical guard.
Oh, there's no doubt
in the state.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the epitome of bully ball. Like he cannot be stopped when he gets down into the lane. It's just like he's just bouncing into people and they're flying off of him. I mean,
plays hard.
He's played. Yeah, all their guards play hard. Braden Morgan and him. They are a tough team. They're going to be a tough out.
Oh yeah.
And yes, that game was close, and like we said, Crossings pulled away late. I see this in Cal Furnish. Cal Furnish is taking his game to another level. I mean, people want to pigeonhole you into whatever level you are because of positional size. I don't give a damn about that. I think Cal Furnish deserves a shot at the Division I level. I just think he's getting better and better and better. He's able to control game. He took that game over in the fourth quarter. I watched what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was unstoppable. They couldn't stop. If he didn't score, he set up whatever the score was, and an Evan Krotz or Phoenix or somebody like that knocked down the shot, and he set him up perfectly.
That's exactly what happened. And Krotz hit some tough shots.
Yeah.
You know, he came alive during that game too. So they had, and of course he always plays great defense. He's scrappy as all get out.
Yeah.
So, but I completely agree with you. Cal is, I think, he'll have offers D1, low level D1s. He might get a mid major, might poke their head in there depending on how he plays this spring and summer. He certainly could up his stock there. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I think there's probably 3 to 5 teams that are, I think, probably already interested in him.
Yeah,
having a conversation with him.
I think like your Liberty and your Central Arkansas,
San Jose State. I think
teams like that should be all over. I mean, all over him. If they, I could see Central Arkansas offering him any day. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, because
they were at the Tournament of Champions watching.
Yes, they were at the Tournament of Champions. We saw them there. Liberty, I know, was in on him. Had heavy interest. All along. I just see. To me, he's just leveled up. That's the only way I can explain it. It's that he had a great Peach Jam and EYBL. He was excellent, but this season I see another gear to him where he's like, all right, yes, I might be, between him and Dayton, they might be the best setup guys in the state, but Cal now is like, it's unstoppable when he wants to get into the paint. He's already, we know, a flat out one of the best shooters in the state.
Yeah.
When his feet are set, it's automatic. But it's the getting into the paint and getting those paint touches that, to me, they just cannot stop him now. And I really, it's going to be, if we ever get the Crossings Midwest City matchup, I'm really looking forward to that because it's a totally different style of guards.
Totally different style. That's going to be interesting, really interesting. Because I'll say this too.
Yeah.
To what you just described, I completely agree with everything. I think what Cal's doing right now is playing with a tremendous amount of confidence in that system that coaches set up.
Yeah.
And I would say Crossings, as far as the sets they run and the guys knowing their roles, is good, or if not better than anybody in the state. There's probably only a couple other teams I would put on that level. And Cal basically plays chess with those pieces.
Yes.
And, like you said, he shoots. I've said this all along. It's dangerous when he can get paint touches and do those things, but then when he passes and moves, he resets and he's even more dangerous sometimes.
That's the offenses, the sets that they run.
Correct.
I mean, it's like, it may not be the first action, it may be the second and third that gets him to where he needs to be.
And it's just hard to defend. He's smart. The team knows where he's at. And the guys play well. They know their roles. They execute their roles well.
Yeah.
He's just playing with a high level of confidence within that system, and he's been playing in it. So it's just confidence. I say this all the time. I tell my son, I tell other players that I coach, look, if you play with confidence, that's about 80% of it.
Yeah.
You're going to make good decisions when you're confident. You're going to make plays when you're confident. He's just playing extremely confident, and it shows. Playing great basketball. I have them in the state finals. I don't know who's going to beat them. Good luck. But Midwest City is the one. And this is where I was headed towards earlier, is what he's going to see at the next level, meaning Cal. Mm-hmm. You're going to see a little bit of it against Midwest City. When you're going to see that on-ball pressure, you're going to see athleticism there.
Yeah.
You're going to see some things that are more similar to what you're going to see at the next level,
which he sees on the EYBA.
Oh, sure.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's going to be now kids.
But you don't see it in high school very often.
No, and also let's be honest. At the next level, it might be a 22-year-old grown man doing it. It's a little bit different.
And he won't be 6 foot tall. He'll be 6'2", 6'3" sometimes. Depending.
Yes. But as far as going against high major level guards, he's done that.
Yeah.
He's doing it in the summer and producing. So it's like that's why I say the pigeonhole thing. We can't do it with kids like that, because as long as they're producing against that level competition consistently, not just one game, but consistently, then to me that you have to look at and sometimes take out the measurables and look at the intangibles and the things
I also
that he
think too that you got to look at he's playing, and this is the one thing that I think is really, really key. He plays in the system at Crossings, and then Trey runs a very similar system. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Trey's on the staff or helping whatever with the staff. That gets transitioned over into Griffin as well.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, he's getting to play in a system that benefits him and that he gets and understands where the pieces are. Now, don't get me wrong. The guy, when he dribble penetrates, he knows where his 2, second, and third options are.
Yeah.
You can see his eyes moving when he's dribble penetrating at lightning speed.
Yeah.
You can see. If you watch that, you understand that's different. You don't see that in high school very often.
Yeah. Guys
are generally, they're one-track mind. If they dribble penetrate, they're looking to score.
Yeah.
Right? They're not looking, I'm looking out of the left side of my eye to see, he's there, and then I've got another guy in the corner, and then I've got, you get the idea.
Crossings has a roster that gives them the versatility to do some things that others can't. So I don't know, like on offense, like what do if you favor like a 1-4 flat or like a 1-4 high. What do you like to do?
It's a great question. And just real quick, I'll say this. He's mastered his offense that he plays in, and it's fantastic, and he's unstoppable in it. I'll just end with that. But asking the question, I like the UCLA offense where you run 4 high.
Okay.
Because then I like that's extended out, and it leaves the paint open where you can get dribble penetration to the paint and then still get double actions on the exterior out by the 3-point line where you can get shooters going, that sort of thing. So I've always tried to have a lot of shooters on the team, and get a guy or two that can dribble penetrate well, right or left-handed, depending.
Yeah.
And then they're always able to look and see. And I've got different sets depending, but I've never run a 4 low. I've contemplated it this year. For the first time, I've contemplated it because I've got some sets that I'm kind of intrigued with.
Yeah.
But, I prefer the 4
And
high.
that's kind of why I asked that, because when I'm looking at Crossings, I'm like, they're one of the teams that they can do it both.
Yeah.
They can do it both ways with the personnel that they have.
Correct.
Because typically, if I'm running it at the high and I got a big guy, I need big guys that can pass and can make plays.
And shoot.
Phoenix. And they have both of that.
Yes,
correct. That's why I brought that
Cam
up.
And Phoenix.
Was to say that they can run it like that, but they could also go on a flat and put the guys down low. So that brings the versatility that some teams, depending on your roster construction and what your personnel is of how you do it. Clearly
their roster might be better, the best roster built in the state. I don't know anybody that's as well-rounded of a roster as what they have.
Maybe
when you look at it.
Maybe Edmond North.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll exclude Edmond North because they're the best team in the state. But outside of that,
I know what you're saying.
Outside of that, I mean, especially when you get into 5A, 4A, when you look at the other rosters, there's always, there's some spots where you're kind of like, I'm not sure. But they check all the boxes.
Yes, they have legitimate post players, a legitimate point guard, and then their wings are guys that all seem to know.
Yeah.
It's like when one doesn't step up, the other one does, and that's what good teams do.
And they're deep, too. They've got a bunch of kids that are going to be good next year and the year after, too. So
yeah.
It's fun. I don't include. Sorry, Edmond North. I don't include you guys because you've got 3 teams on your 15 on your roster that could pretty much start for about any team. So
no. We spent a lot of time talking about crossings, but I just wanted to kind of go over kind of why we have them maybe up there. I would tell you this. I'm not going to say that I would pick them over Midwest City second either.
Well, and
I would have to take some thought on that.
I can't say that because I haven't seen Midwest City.
So you got to go see Midwest City.
I've got to go see Midwest City. I'm excited for it.
And I think they're on a collision course. Right? Yeah. And that's not to discount like Holland Hall, because Holland Hall is they're built well as well, and they're constructed well. Shout out! I shouted him out before. Coach Teddy Owens is an excellent coach, one of the best coaches in the state. But he's got
gave him a shout out last week, I think. Too.
Yeah, because he helped. He was shout
out to Teddy Owens.
Yeah, he was on that Oklahoma staff. We'll see you here soon, Teddy, because he's at the Deer Creek tournament. So I'll be there at least tomorrow night. To check them out. But anyways. Yeah, I mean, that's a collision course in 5A that we have right now. I wouldn't count out Holland Hall. I wouldn't count out Booker T. Washington. Those are some other teams in that mix. We'll get into them in the next podcast because I want to get in depth a little bit more and watch Booker T a little bit more because I always know their playing style and how they play. They love guards, and that's what they typically run. And I'm going to get into a couple of freshmen here in a minute. That I'm going to go over, and it'll tie back into them because their stud freshman just finally got back from injury and made his season debut just last week. So we'll get into them in a minute, but I wanted to bounce around because I'm trying to go in some type of chronological order. So the next thing I watched, and this was done. I watched this strictly on live stream, and shout out to the guys that were doing the live streams on social media. I love that. Saving us all money having to pay for that, man.
Oh, yes.
Because they like to charge you for those out-of-state tournaments. But shout out to them live stream guys. They know who they are. But and it's great, honestly, to do that because for someone like me, I'm at 100 different games.
You're trying to be multiple places at one time.
Exactly. So that gives me an opportunity to keep it and watch, how those guys are doing.
Yep.
But the Bass Pro down in Springfield or up in Springfield, Missouri, is typically known for bringing some of the best teams in the country all together.
Yep.
And the first game that I was able to watch, which was Edmond North versus Rainier Beach out in Washington, Seattle area, Nate Robinson's son is one of their main guys. Kendrick Powers was their lights out, shooter. They're two possible, they're definitely Division I type guys.
Yeah.
Edmond North handled them. Handled them. Now, they really just wanted to shoot threes the whole game, and Edmond North gave them a little bit of everything like they do. And Warlick, went 19 points, 15 rebounds in that game.
He was a man.
But the standout player, other than Dylan, Keontae Tramble, which we've talked about him a lot lately, Keontae Tramble, he's signed to go to Independence and
loaded
shout
with
out
talent there.
Shout out to Coach Jay Stedman out there because he great job, great dude, great staff, great at recruiting the Oklahoma area.
He's going to get these guys where they want to go.
Absolutely. So Keontae made a great move going there, but Keontae. With any guard in that tournament, and he made all tournament team, him and Dylan, which is a definite feather in their cap. Keontae hung with the best guards in that tournament and looked every bit of as good, or if not better, than some of those guys.
Look, I'm just going to say it. Keontae is one of the premier guards in Oklahoma. I don't care what class. We've got some stud players. We talk about Dayton's a stud. Montnotti's a stud. There's a lot of studs in our state.
Yeah,
Tramble is a stud.
Yeah,
period.
Yep. They won that game pretty handily, moved on. And this is the great thing about teams in Oklahoma now, especially the high end ones, is that they're going out. They're looking to get, looking to get iron sharpens iron. They're looking to get out there and play the best of the best.
Yep.
So Edmond North knew they could stay in state all year and possibly go undefeated and not have one loss, but they knew this is the best way to prepare their guys. So, shout out to those guys for taking those games, and they did take 2 losses in that. In the second game, in the second game they played
tight matchups too.
They played St. John Bosco out of California, who has the number 2 kid in the country in the 2026 class, Brandon McCoy, the point guard, who is an absolute stud.
Yep.
And when you take games like that and you show up, they didn't lose by very much in that game.
They were close games.
Stuck with them. And then in the third game, they played Ace Bailey out of Georgia.
Yep.
And some people think he's the best player in the country.
Yeah.
Better than even Cooper Flagg. Some will have him ranked ahead of him because of the things that he can do. And Dylan Warlick went toe-to-toe with Ace Bailey. And look, we're not here to say just that you're better than that kid because a lot of times people think that just because I did better. But it wasn't that. It was the way in which Warlick played against him. I think he finished with 28 points, Warlick, in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, to me, stood out on a national level, and why I'm one of the advocates of saying I think a school in Oklahoma should have taken Dylan Warlick.
Yes.
But whatever, that's going to be their loss. And we've talked about it. I've talked about it on social media. He's going to go to Wyoming and be a stud. I don't care what anybody says. I promise you he'll be a stud at Wyoming.
Yep. He's always been a stud. I've always loved his game.
Yep.
And again, he produces every time he steps on the floor. He gets against national competition, in spring and summer ball. He stands out. I mean, he's your 2010 guy. He does what he does. He'll step up. Now what he's doing, and I'm seeing this year, he's playing an inside and outside game.
Yeah.
Well rounding himself in preparation for playing at the next level because he will shoot more on the outside and he'll do well at the next level.
No, I think that's exactly what he's going to do at the next level is just get even better and better.
He's a double guy. I could see him. As a freshman. Double digits on offense, close to double digits on rebounding. Yep. I mean, he's as a freshman.
Yeah, and also
at
just
a Division I school.
Before we move on from the Bass Pro, I also I saw Dontrell Yearby. He's their 3-point specialist.
Yep.
He hit some huge shots in that tournament, so I got to shout him out. Tatum Ridge played well. Bryce Potts. We could talk about Edmond North and I could give you the same recap or synopsis of what they did because that's how they play. That's why they're the best team in the state. They're super consistent.
Yep.
They have a ton of size, a ton of depth. I mean,
they know their roles, and everybody executes on their roles. Period.
Yep. So shout out to the Edmond North program, and shout out to Keontae Tramble and Dylan Warlick for making all-tournament team in a tournament that has some of the best players in the country.
Congrats,
they definitely proved that they belong there.
Absolutely.
And then I'll move from that, and I know we're jumping around here into the Soul Bowl, Douglas versus Millwood.
Yep.
Simply the best atmosphere basketball game I've been in. And
social media was on fire over it.
I want to say it might be 15 or 20 years by the last time I seen a game. Yeah, and it wasn't just packed. It was the energy.
Yes.
The energy. I went to a game last year, regionals or something. It was Broken Arrow versus Owasso, and it was in Sapulpa. Mm-hmm. That had standing room only along the top. It was like that in packedness, and the game itself was great.
Yep.
But the crowd energy was nothing like what was the other night in Douglas High School.
Nice.
That was one of the most special venues I've been in high school. It reminds me, I'm old enough to remember games in the late 90s and in the early 2000s when I played in the late 90s and early 2000s in high school. Like, that's how it would be, especially against a rivalry team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's gone away from that, but that really was refreshing to see it come back like that and to see that the community, I mean, somebody told me there was 300 people waiting in the lobby that couldn't get in. I mean, that's how packed this thing was. and it was fun.
Yeah.
The game was fun. And, to see Coach Dorian Williams, who won 3 state championships as a player at Douglas and helped as an assistant last year when Douglas won in 4A over Weatherford. To see him go back to his alma mater and go against that team with the storylines all in there. Jaden Nickens moving over to Douglas. And unfortunately, he didn't get to play, which we all wanted to see that because that'd be about the only thing that could have made that thing any better was if he was able to play in that game. So, it sucks that didn't happen.
It would have added to the atmosphere, and it was already crazy.
It was crazy, and to watch Coach Steve Alexander and Dorian coaching on the sideline
against each other
was a show in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have ended up watching them two more than the game, and you would have had an entertainment time because they had a lot on the line.
They wanted to win,
and they wanted that thing bad. And shout out to both of those guys and their staffs because that was a hell of a game. Devon Scott, picked up his first Division I offer yesterday.
Congratulations.
University of Albany. Congratulations, Devon.
Many more to come.
Yep, you earned it, my dude. And he he played well in a game where the offenses were not flowing that well. It ended up becoming a great game due to the way the atmosphere and the ending.
A lot of free throws shot.
A lot of free throws missed. I can tell you.
There you go.
Everybody knows my stance on that rule. I hate it. And then on top of it, I don't know what's going on with free throw shooting, but it's almost like there's a lid on the basket. And this isn't one team, two teams.
No.
This is everywhere.
This is everywhere. I've noticed it too. A lot of free throws missed this year. I don't know what it is. Something in the air, in the water.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
So standouts from that game for me in Douglas was obviously Devon Scott, who I gave the player of the game because he was the most consistent offensively. I only think he attempted maybe 2 threes in that game, and that's his. That's everybody knows. That's his specialty. He did do a good job of beating his man off the dribble and doing some stuff at the rim, and obviously getting to the line at the end, which is ultimately what won it. Hitting the free throw at the end, and they win the game. There's only 0.7 seconds left after he hits that. So must feel. I know that felt good for him, and I interviewed him after, and happy for him to get his offer. But also for Douglas, Deshaun Ransom, the 6'5" forward, really had kind of to me a coming out party for him because I've talked about him since the summer. And the upside and the potential. But what he showed, we talked about him specifically. I've talked to you with him off air that I really do like him. And what he showed in that game was the ability to hit mid-range jumpers, not just be an energy guy around the rim, because he had a monster dunk in that game. The crowd. I have it posted on my IG if you guys want to go check that out. He hit some jumpers at the end that was great. They've got a freshman we always talk about that I always talk about who didn't get as many minutes in that game, but he hit a big shot, and Nakeem House Jr. He's going to be a player. I can tell you that right now.
Just getting in the game as a freshman.
Just getting in there. Landry Ballard, the head of the whole team, looked like he was a little banged up, so he maybe wasn't able to go full speed. And hope he gets well because he's one of the better players in the state. Love his game. Jaden Williams did some things well. Just the game just had a weird flow to it, but it didn't really matter because the atmosphere made everything seem like it was okay, and I liked it. On the Millwood side, I think that we got to talk about this, and I've spoken about him for a while now. Amari Barrett is really coming on. Not only is he growing, it seems like at a rapid rate. He looks like he might be bigger, end up being bigger than his brother.
Yeah, that's saying something.
And that's but when you watch him to the trained eye, his defense and his length and his hands and the deflections and it is second to none when you watch him. He is an excellent defender.
If you think about it, T.O.'s really his strength was his defense.
No, absolutely.
The offense, his athleticism was great.
He was a lockdown wing defender that could take on bigger guards, bigger forwards, even with the strength of him.
So that doesn't surprise me at all when you say that. It's a family thing.
Yeah, I think that
genetics.
I think that it's with him. It's going to be like his athleticism pop is just now coming.
Yeah.
T.O. might have had it a little earlier.
Got it.
Jumping out the gym and stuff. But it looks like Amari is starting to get that.
Yep.
And that
exciting.
could be scary with him and Isaiah Wilkes in the backcourt going forward. I mean, they still got 2 more years.
Yeah.
In that game, Isaiah started off well. He had some look like lower back trouble, so he only played through the second quarter, and then he was out for the rest of the game.
He's quick.
Yeah, quickest. Well, I think he's the quickest guard in the state, 94 feet. But
Yep.
but with that backcourt, they're going to be fine. 2 guys that stood out for me for them, Zon Williams, who we talked about the JUCOs need to be on board about him, and this is off the subject, but we got to stop this who founded what kid first too, by the way. Like no one cares if you saw the kid first. It's about who can help the kid get to the next level.
Correct.
So that needs to be brought up because I know there was some things said there, and my thing is
that's just nonsense.
Zon is a great player. He's a 6'2".
Yeah.
I say he's one of the most athletic rim finishers. He can play some point. He could play off the ball.
Play at the next level.
He's a dynamic. Yes, no. He's going to do great in the JUCO level and have his chance to move up after that.
Yep.
Seems like a great humble kid.
Yes.
I really enjoy him. He's a player. He's going to be really good for them. And then Chance Bubba Davis is their shooter. He's super athletic. He's a football kid too. So he came over.
Talk about the rankings real quick within 4A and how we've kind of put certain teams, and I've got Weatherford in the finals. I'm thinking it's going to be the same as last year in terms of Douglas and Weatherford. If I had to pick right now, and I know they've got a team in front of Douglas right now.
I mean, the last time I saw it, they had North Rock Creek ahead of, and listen, North Rock Creek has had a great season.
Great season.
I would have that flipped.
100%.
Not only that, if Jaden Nickens is going to play, I probably would have Douglas at number 1. I think that Douglas at number 1. We love Weatherford. They were our preseason
Weatherford,
pick.
yes.
I would
like say
Weatherford.
If Nickens goes to when he starts playing, and I would say this too. They're by far the most talented team. You put Nickens on that squad, and he's playing. It's not even maybe one of the most talented teams, one of the top 3 or 4 talented teams in the state. Period, regardless of class. But when you look at the overall. Yeah, they'd have to be number 1. I mean, when Nickens comes out and then they gel and everybody learns their spots, because with Nickens coming out, other guys have got to figure out their roles are going to maybe change a little bit, maybe less shots available, so on and so forth. So I think that's part of it. But
I'm looking at because you just mentioned the 4A rankings, and we said we were going to jump around. We are. This is going to be an action-packed. Everybody better listen to the entire thing because you might miss your kid or your team.
Exactly, because we're talking about everything today, folks.
But looking at this, they have Weatherford 1 with 40 first-place votes, North Rock Creek 2, and Douglas 3.
Yeah.
My thing about that is that North Rock Creek they've done well, but they got blasted by OCS.
They got, blasted.
OCS. Douglas's only losses have come from going out of state.
Correct.
We can't punish these teams for going and playing a national schedule.
Correct.
Douglas is being punished by playing a national schedule.
100%.
They are right now.
100%.
Because one could say that they probably Weatherford has the better record. One could say Douglas is more balanced right now.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Than them.
When you look at the roster from top to bottom for Douglas compared to Weatherford, Weatherford is very heavy on the top end, and then when you get into guard play for Weatherford, that's where the struggle is a little bit, right? And then guess what? When you play Douglas, they're going to pressure you there because they got strength all across.
Yes. I mean, especially if we add in Jaden Nickens to this thing.
Correct.
I mean, that even changes the whole dynamic.
Correct. I mean, you've got athleticism, you got great guard play. I mean, provided everybody's healthy. I mean, there's a lot of ifs there, but when you look at that was the difference maker last year. Was the guard play made the difference for them beating Weatherford
and could. Again, because essentially they lost. I mean, they lost Terry McMorris and they lost Jace Breath. So those are 2 6'6" at least guys for them that were versatile. Mm-hmm. But they also get the emergence of Deshaun Ransom.
Correct.
And they also get possibly Jaden Nickens, who might not be as tall as those guys, but physically
more versatile,
and he's strong.
Yes.
And then like you said, the guards. it's just
days.
it's night and day as
For
far
days.
as Landry,
Yeah.
Devon, Jaden Williams. And they just got back James Green Howard, who is an absolute stud on the bench for them, who is a football guy.
Yep.
He just got back. This was his first week back, so he's another piece. Then he played excellently in the state playoffs. He was one of the key factors in that championship game, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was obvious to me, and we saw it last year a little bit. I know that my Sage boys, shout out to Ethan and Tate, they're studs, but true point guards, you need a true point guard. If you have a point guard that can get paint touches and you've got that surrounding roster for Weatherford, that's hard to beat, right?
Yep. So just to go through it real quick, I would probably at this point I would have Douglas at 1, Weatherford at 2. Then for me, I would probably have Bethany, Perkins Tryon, North Rock Creek, and I think the team that slept on the most on this entire list is Medill.
Yep.
I said it 2 podcasts ago.
Yep.
They're 12-1. They have a kid that can't be stopped down in the post in Ethan Wilkerson. He just hit 2,000 points. Shout out, Ethan.
Yep.
Like, he's one of the kids to me that's probably the least talked about player in that 24 class, who's a top 5 level kid as far as what he does skill wise.
Coaches are going to get a good one. Whoever recruits him and gets him to sign is going to get a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's how I would go in there. Let's look at it because we're trying to go through the rankings rapidly. 3A, I think the OSSAA did a good job for once. I mean, Oklahoma Christian at 1 is not – I probably would have them there.
Yeah.
Millwood at 2, I probably would have them there right now.
Yeah.
Victory Christian at 3, because Oklahoma Christian just beat Victory Christian last Saturday.
Yep.
So I like that. Idabel, Idabel is going to be the team that's a sleeper in that. Cassia Hall, absolutely. I'd have them right in the mix, and then Crooked Oak. I think that's that right there. I mean, I might flip. I might have Cassia Hall over Crooked Oak. Cassia Hall has some stud freshmen. Memphis Duffy and the son of Oklahoma State secondary coach, OSU secondary coach.
Yeah, I know.
That's his son. He's a stud. But Dallas Lowe is the top. Dallas Lowe got to be a top three kid in the state in the freshman class. He's unbelievable.
Nice.
And then Jason Kim.
Yes.
They're I like that team a lot, so I would have them there. 2A, we're on a collision course for Pecola and Dale.
Yep.
That's what everybody wants to see. Dale and Preston has always done great, but Dale has handled Preston easily when they've played them the last couple of times. So
by 20, 30, or 30
yeah, no
points.
knock on Preston. They're a great team. And
But Dale's one of the best teams in the entire state regardless of class.
I mean, Hooker, Fairland, they're both undefeated, and Fairland getting the Jason Dotson kid to move from Dixon over there helps him immensely because he's another unsigned kid in the 24 class. That's a really good player. So shout out to Fairland. They haven't got no love on here yet. I see you, Jason Dotson, and I see Fairland being 11-0 right now.
11-0, yep.
So I just want to see that Pecola, Garrett Scott, Coda Terrell been playing lights out. That would be a fun matchup to watch to Dale. They may not be as deep, but no one is matching up against Dakota Terrell. I'm just telling you that right now.
Yeah,
he's going to be a man amongst boys on whoever he plays.
Yeah,
in that class.
I see. I mean, if I were to look at that game, I mean, let's just assume that everything works out where Pecola's meets Dale in the final. Let's just say with Preston in the wings, depending on what Pecola does. But I certainly see that if it lines up that way. I see Dale winning by 12 to 14 points, maybe 15 points in that game. I mean, because at the end of the day, Dayton and the cast of players that he has around him, it's just too much. It's too much for a 2A. I mean, when you look at what they did to Owasso, when you've got a number 7 player in the country, making plays and then tournament champions to win at the buzzer to win that game. And if Dale, if a couple things, turnovers don't happen, it could have ended the other way. So I just don't see, you got 2 players, and don't get me wrong, Pecola has other players. I think we got to acknowledge that it's it's a team game. But when you look at the overall, I mean, Dale's the level of experience that they've played other great teams outside of Oklahoma. I don't know that Pecola's getting those opportunities to play against that level of competition. And tournament champions, when they traveled up north to play in a tournament. Chicago, was it in Chicago?
Yes.
Yeah, and so
Chicago.
I mean you're greasing the skids. Yes, they've got 2 losses, but those are to top level talented teams that would arguably beat most of the teams in Oklahoma.
Okay, so. and then we're just gonna do 6A and 5A. And to finish us out, I would have obviously Edmond North as number 1.
Oh, no doubt.
Owasso is number 2.
Me as well.
I'm gonna stick with Union at 3.
Me at 3. That's same with me.
I am gonna put a new team in there though, and I'm gonna go with Deer Creek now at 4. I think Deer Creek is they've been a little up and down, but I think they're gonna start to hit their stride. I think they are starting to hit their stride. So. I think that I like them at 4. That's for me. At 5, I'm going to go Edmond Memorial. And then if I had to just give you one more team or 2 more teams, Westmore's playing well. They're 5-1 in district. They're on the outside looking in, but they're coming up. And I'd probably say them, and I'd probably have to throw Piedmont there, and that would be like my top teams for right now in 6A.
I've got Edmond North, Owasso, Union. I would put Edmond Memorial at the 4 spot.
Yep.
And then I've got at the 5 spot, I've got Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
I've got Broken Arrow at 5, and then what I have is Choctaw, Deer Creek would be 6 and 7, and then you've got a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
When you talk about District 2, you could pretty much put, there's the Normans, the Santa Fe's, the Westmores, the Putnam City Wests.
Bixby's having a good season
as well.
too.
You've got those teams that are kind of in that range of that 6 to 10 range. But I've got Edmond North, Owasso Union, Edmond Memorial, and then Broken Arrow.
And I wasn't even looking at District 4. Choctaw and Broken Arrow, I probably even left them out. I probably would have Choctaw in there over one of them and Broken Arrow too. So I might have to write down an actual list for 6A because I think it's kind of trickier than we think. But
that 6 through 10 it gets real muddy, and it could go a lot of different directions. I mean, here's the thing: where your draw is coming, tournament time, is going to be, how well do you do? And I will say this: Westmore being, only having 1 loss at this point, is well positioned in District 2, but I think it's probably the weakest of all the districts if I'm looking at at the teams and how they've played thus far.
Mm-hmm.
It's wide open. So, but the other 3 I think are a little bit tougher, and especially top heavy. They've got teams that are, they're definitely a little bit better on the top end.
And if I'm in the case, and I'm gonna jump into 5A at 1, I would have, and this is tough because it could be a coin flip between Midwest City and Crossings Christian.
I haven't seen Midwest City, so I'll go with Crossings.
I'm gonna go.
I could change that.
I'm gonna go Crossings Christian 1, Midwest City 2. I'm gonna go Guthrie 3.
Yep.
4 Holland Hall and 5 Booker T. Washington, and then I would have Carl Albert. And we're gonna get into in a second. Carl Albert losing one of their key players. We're going to get into that in a second, but they've played well since then. So that would probably be my 5, and I would also have Tulsa Memorial and Del City, who a lot of people wouldn't have had Del City.
Yes.
Del City's 6-1 in district play.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's really going to come down to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we had these conversations about these tournaments and why teams to me are opting to either go out of state and play, or it seems like they're not playing in as many. It's because they don't really matter the games anymore.
Yep.
Essentially, you could take all the losses you want everywhere outside of district. As long as you're good in district, you're good to go for the playoffs.
Correct.
So these matchups are odd in in these tournaments that we have, and what you're seeing is a lot of the high end teams are going out of state, like we talked about, to try to sharpen iron and play some better national teams.
And plus
to the kids' exposure.
And you said this earlier, and I want to come back to it because I'm glad you said it.
Yep.
The goal of these kids in high school is to get recruited and play college basketball. Yep. Most of them either they're multi-sport athletes and maybe they want to play baseball, but basketball's their secondary sport, or football and basketball's their second. But at the end of the day, they want to play at the next level. And my thing is, kudos to the coaches in the schools that go to these out-of-state tournaments to get recognized nationally against national teams, that the players get seen by people that they might not get seen by otherwise, right? So, shout out to those teams and coaches. Dale's done it. Douglas has done it. PC West, I know, has done it. There's been some other schools. Shout out to them. I really feel like, not that I want people to run away from Oklahoma. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it helps the kids, and really that's what it should be about is one, preparing for state. And if you play better talent, okay, if you lose, it's still preparing you to play at the end of the season. Iron sharpens iron. And they get recognized for playing against top-level talent, and somebody might see that and decide to start recruiting the
absolutely. Player. And just to end this off, and then you can hit our sponsor in a second. I would just jump into. We got to talk. We just briefly over the transfer portal. Carl Albert's big man Jaden Mott obviously has moved to Edmond Santa Fe, and he's already over there. I'm sure he'll be eligible any day to play. I actually think that's a perfect fit for him. Santa Fe has a lot of guards. They don't have a post presence. He instantly, to me, helps them. I don't know how many games he's going to get to play in the regular season, but that's a very intriguing, and it's going to make Edmond Santa Fe no one want to play them in the playoffs.
And they're in District 2, which it's definitely changes the power. It could change the power dynamic within District 2.
The other move, and this won't affect OSSAA, but Jaden Constant leaving PC West to go to Grime Prep Academy. That could hurt PC West. I mean, he's a good player, no doubt. For Grime Prep, adding another guy to their arsenal.
Congratulations.
And then the last move, MJ Graham leaving Westmore to go to Del City. I'm not sure he's played yet for Del City. I don't know what that looks like. If he hasn't done that, then I'm wrong and apologize. But they're already playing well with their young guys. If they can add him and his brother, Maishan, to me, that instantly made 5A a little bit deeper. So I like that as a depth.
Make it crack into that top 5 that we were just talking about.
Yep. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about was I wanted to just highlight a couple guys in the 2027 class, the freshmen, because I don't feel like we've talked about them enough. And it's got to start off with, I think, the number one player in Oklahoma is Tyson Poguy from Mustang. Tyson.
You've been saying it for a while.
I've been saying it for a long time, but I call him Baby Trey Young because he. And I don't know about Baby anymore, but he has a lot of Trey Young in his game.
I want to say this. Oki's not taking credit for him. He's just saying he's been talking about him for a while.
Yes.
Tyson gets the credit for being Tyson.
Yes. Definitely a Division I caliber point guard, no doubt about it. Definitely already has.
Had 8 threes in the game the other night.
8 threes was to tie the record with Ethan Scott, and then beat it the night before with 9. So he now holds the record already in his 14th game.
Congratulations, young man.
Tyson Poguy has a lot of Trey Young in his game. We're not saying he's going to be the next Trey Young. We're not saying no one can say that.
He's talented.
He's super talented, and his game resembles Trey Young at that age. It's very similar in the way that he plays. His shooting mechanics, the way he comes down, it just looks a little bit like him. It looks like he studied Trey Young's game, and he's just doing it. The kid can pull up from anywhere. He can run a team. He put pinpoint passes. Excellent player.
That's saying a lot for a freshman, too.
I want to shout out a kid that I put on Twitter that I think could end up being Gene Mason from Victory Christian. Had a monster game today. I think he had like 18, 19 points, 9 assists, 5 steals. He's like 6'4.5" point guard.
Ooh.
And with possibly the room to grow.
Wow.
If he ends up being as big as his brother, he could be a 6'5", 6'6" point guard.
That's positional size of the D1 and the point guard.
Love him.
Huge.
I mentioned Booker T earlier. They got their stud, Jock Mitchell, back. He's been back from injury. I think he got hurt at the East-West Showdown on a dunk and hurt his wrist. I think that's what he just came
you're
back
right.
for.
You're right. I do remember that.
He got hurt. We were watching a game there. Super athletic. I mean, stud kid. He's a kid to me that the more he works on his offensive game, he's going to be sky's the limit for him. Who else would I was on to mention in there? Dallas Lowe, Memphis Duffy from Cassia Hall. Those are kids in that mix. A kid out of Broken Bow, Graydon Howell, is a lefty point guard. I mean, kind of got Brandon Jennings, Nick Van Exel vibes. That might be a little bit throwback to someone listening. If you
I know what that means, and that's a compliment.
That's
folks.
a compliment for sure. And we don't like to compare kids to NBA players.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the easiest way for you in your mind to say,
I remember that. I know what
okay,
that
I know
means.
the style of player he is. He's very good.
I love me some Nick Van Exel. Now.
Yeah, this kid's going to be special down there. And Broken Bow got them one down there. So those are just some of the 27s that I wanted to hit on. I know we've hit on a lot of stuff today. Tap in with it, and definitely, you know, we talked about a little bit of everything. And I know you got to hit our sponsor.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hit sponsor. Nate Logan at Logan Elite. Training out of Destiny Christian High School in Del City, Oklahoma. He provides for affordable group and individual training options every week. Logan Elite Training aims to help players develop their skill sets, basketball IQ, confidence, and ultimately helping them become more prepared for their current teams as well as for the next level. Logan Elite currently trains some of the best high school and junior high players, including the number one player in Oklahoma. Visit LoganEliteBasketball.com or message him at Instagram at NateLogan_Logan Elite for more information on how to get signed up. I'll just say this, Nate does a great job. Those of you that don't have trainers, you've got to put that time in. If you want to get to the next level with today's basketball, you're going to have to find somebody to train you to get outside of just team practice and develop your skills, ball handling, shooting, all the things that go into making a great player. You've got to have those skills in order to play at the next level. I know a lot of people out there want to play at the next level. Well, you've got to train with guys that can get you there. You've got to put that work in. They're not going to get you there. You've got to do that. But getting a trainer on that level, just like Trey Slay, and there's a ton of trainers out there, and you can name them. There's a lot of other trainers out there.
Evan Alexander.
There's
a lot of
great guys out there.
Great dudes out there doing this.
But get with a trainer and put the work in. If you put the work in, you're going to get results. But Nate does a great job, and shout out to Nate for sponsoring the podcast. And speaking of sponsorships, we're still looking for and we're actively promoting sponsorship. We need your help. We love doing this. We want to continue doing this, and the only way we can do that is if people sponsor. It goes straight back into the podcast, allowing us to put on, participate in such a great venue that we're using right now. And we want to continue to do that to promote these players and coaches and teams. But we need your help doing that. So
yep, and as well as that, it goes along with subscribing to our YouTube channels, liking, following all of our social medias. Yep. We love the continued support. The messages that me and Ernie receive on a daily basis and that people put out on social media about how great this is one of the reasons why we love doing this. Yes. We love helping the kids. We love teaching the parents about recruitment. In the future, we look forward to a lot more coaches coming on.
Yes.
We're going to definitely bring in some AAU guys coming up soon to talk about some of that stuff. That should get very interesting. I can promise you that. That's to say it's going to get fun. And we definitely look forward to having some guests. Look forward to some Flagrant 2 merch coming soon. And as well, I'm wearing Okie Ball stuff. We have new colors on all of our gear. The gray is out. We have different black ones. If you want to get hoodies, T-shirts made in your school colors, absolutely we do that. So just hit me up, send me a message. We can get your whole team hooked up with a good deal. So we just really appreciate the support that we're receiving from this, and we look forward to seeing you guys this weekend at the tournaments, because when we're out and about, come say hello, chop it up with us. We love talking to you guys and appreciate you, Oklahoma. We're out.